Yo guys, Otaku Ops here. How's it going? Welcome to today's video. Today I'm gonna do a KOEI game, and KOEI, especially in the 90s, used to make a lot of turn-based strategy games like Genghis Khan, or very famous for its Romance of Three Kingdoms game, which I still think the second one is the best one, but I know that it was also very primitive. For example, all the units were the same type, so it was basically just infantry, and we know that later they added archers and cavalry, so it made it a little bit more realistic. But there was another game that they made in the early 90s about Napoleonic Wars, and that's the one we're going to cover today, so stay tuned. Okay, so today we're going to look at L'Empereur, which was released in the early 90s or so. And I wanted to do a whole cosplay thing, dressed up as Napoleon, but it's a bit too expensive for things to later lie in the closet. So I did the next best thing, and I just got myself a Napoleon t-shirt. And the text at the bottom says, "Victory belongs to the most persevering," which I think is a quote that was somewhat realistic in the 19th century, but is not so applicable now, unfortunately. Okay, so when you start the game, this is going to be the menu after the intro. And it says here to use mouse, click a button. To use keyboard, press a key. I really don't recommend using the keyboard because, well, it's very complicated. So yeah, use the mouse. It's much more better. So when you click here, this is the actual menu of the game, and you'll realize something very quickly is that, there is no kind of title screen. So imagine that you started the game and walked away, then came back and you're like, what game is this again? You're not going to remember because there's nothing to indicate that it's L'Empereur. Anyway, so what I'm going to show you guys today is the 5th secret scenario that you unlock under certain conditions. And so let's have a look at it and I'll explain what I mean. So I saved the game right before it happens, which is this one. To unlock the secret 5th scenario, you need to do this. Basically, as you can see on the map right now, Prussia, which is this gray and white flag, they occupied like most of West Germany, and they also took Amsterdam, while the Spanish came in from the south and they took Bordeaux, Saint-Malo, and Paris, actually. So yeah, what we need to do is that Napoleon needs to lose as an emperor, and the easy way to do that is to isolate him in the city. Like right now, I'm completely cut off from the next city, Lyon, so I have nowhere to run. So if anybody attacks me, I'm gonna lose, and that's the point. That way you unlock the secret scenario. So let's do that. Let's just let's do nothing. So let's just rest. And yeah, there we go. So we have an attack from London coming in. It's Wellington. Wow, how befitting. So I don't have any troops to fight, actually. So I'll just click yes, I guess. And that way Napoleon is defeated. So he says, France, I will return. He's exiled to the island of Elba. And then you click play again. Yes. So it goes back to the menu. And now the difference is if you do start new game, so usually you have 4 scenarios here, the first 4, but now the 5th one is shown as well. So escape from Elba Island, return of the Emperor. Let's do that, and I'll comment briefly on tips and tricks you can do in order to beat the scenario. So let's do that. Play game. View other battles, no. Ready to begin, yes. Okay, so this is the map you get at the beginning of the 5th scenario. You can see that pretty much France is restored to its original border, and the powers that kind of, you know, disappeared for a couple of years, like Bavaria, they're back. And Austria, again, is moving back into Italy. The Kingdom of Naples exists. The Kingdom of Naples is the only ally you have here, but it's conquered within the first 2 or 3 turns, usually. Very weak. So if we look at diplomacy, France, you'll see that we have an alliance, in fact, with Naples, and Turkey is neutral, but everybody else is aggressive. If you look at the cities, you'll notice that in Amsterdam there is a huge army commanded by Wellington. Well, this is historically accurate because, of course, the Battle of Waterloo happened near Brussels, in fact. There is no Brussels in the game, so the nearest next thing is Amsterdam. There is a trick here, because the army of Wellington is very strong and very well trained and with high morale, so you need to avoid it as much as possible. So what you need to do is look at the next city, which is yours, which is Lille, and you can see the difference in troops. Wellington has over 1,000, and Lefebvre has only 320, which is really nothing. Let's look at Paris. So in Paris, we only have 530, which is again not a lot. And Saint-Malo, we have 150. So really, there's not much to put up a defense. Let's look at the personnel. So the one thing I realized playing this scenario is that you need guns, okay? Guns can sometimes win battles just on their own. Just having guns on the field helps so much. They deal a lot of damage, but they also make the enemy lose morale very quickly, which is important because if they are in a disorganized state, it becomes very easy target for your infantry or cavalry. So you need to achieve that status as much as possible to inflict maximum casualties. The problem is the armies surrounding France at the start of the scenario are very strong. You have Austria, which is strong, Spain, which is strong, and of course Wellington's army in Amsterdam, which is strong. You need to kind of find a way to avoid them as much as possible. So that's where tactics come in. This is kind of like a chess game. You need to plan each move very carefully, and later on I will tell you also you have to resort to some guerrilla tactics. Anyway, looking at the map, I can guarantee you that especially the south of France is not going to do well. I would sacrifice cities in this case. There's no point to hold on to them because you're just going to lose them anyway. I recommend consolidating first in Lille, Paris, and Bordeaux. So Paris, of course, is good because it has a lot of population, so you can build armies very quickly with a lot of people. Bordeaux is very good because it has, not Bordeaux, Lyon. Lyon has a lot of food, so that's important because you need to supply Paris. Paris eats a lot of food. It doesn't produce so much, so you need kind of a stock of grain, to supply Paris. Bordeaux is actually also very good for that, but unfortunately, the Spanish will take it over very quickly, and there's really no way about it. So I recommend consolidating troops to Lille, Paris, and Lyon. The way you do that is in Lyon, there is a general called Gourgaud, and he has already artillery, 80 men. So that's good. Use him as the second artillery officer. The first one being Napoleon, of course, but use him as a second artillery commander. He's very good. B is decent, it's decent. So the first thing you need to do though is look at the side cities like Saint-Malo, for example. Who's there? We have Dupont, we have Moncey, and Sebastiani. But the thing you'll notice is that Dupont actually has artillery, and his artillery skill is only C, so that's not good. So what you need to do is you need to shift him. I would shift him to Lille right away because you need to consolidate Lille at the beginning of the game. Because Bavaria is weak. They don't pose a lot of danger at the beginning of the game. So yeah, bring him to Lille, consolidate all the artillery you can to Napoleon in this case. If you look at Bordeaux, it's the same thing. You have General Lameth, he has 70 men in artillery. Again, C is not good, so consolidate him to Paris or even Lyon. Gourgaud has a B, remember, so use him, preferably. I think in Marseille there is nobody with artillery as far as I know, but I could be wrong. Oh, yeah, there is one, Rapp, he has 40 men. 40 is not a lot, but remember, you're consolidating everybody, so every gun counts. Even 40 is okay. You can have, in the end, you can have maybe 150 men for artillery unit. That's good. That's very good. That's what you want. So that's the first thing. You would do that. You would move them around. Hopefully, you can make Lille strong enough at the beginning so that Wellington does not attack, and that's important. You have to delay their attack as much as possible. And eventually what I recommend doing is actually moving away from Lille, because Lille itself is not very important. It doesn't have a lot of population. The agriculture is not very good. Industry commerce is negligible. So you can basically safely abandon Lille. There is a trick here, and the trick is you must let Bavaria take over Lille. If you let Wellington move in there, you're now going to have a strong army in Lille, which is not good. It's not good at all. It's going to ruin all your plans. It is true that probably by the time he's in Lille, you might have enough to counter from Paris, but you're going to take a lot of losses, I imagine. So that's not the best way. If you let Bavaria take over, though, again, remember, Bavaria is weak. All their generals, except one, they're like C or even D. So yeah, if somebody from there moves over, they're gonna occupy Lille. They're essentially gonna block Wellington because he can't, they're allies, so he's not gonna move in. And that's gonna offer you a great barrier to the north that you don't have to worry about. So at least one big worry is gone. And that's a huge, huge advantage point in this scenario. The way that you deal with Spain is a bit different. Spain essentially has one big army. You can argue that whatever is left in Spain afterwards is not important. But remember that if you do go into Spain, they have guerrilla warfare. So from time to time, they will hit your cities and actually cause a lot of damage. So go into Spain much, much later in the game, not at the beginning. So Spain will likely attack and take Bordeaux and even Saint-Malo probably. What you need to do here is counterattack from Paris, and what you do is you attack from Paris, you occupy Bordeaux, for example, then you transfer all the resources to the national treasury. So you basically, take all the resources and you leave Bordeaux again, you go back to Paris. So basically now, you got the resources. That's the point. You need resources, and that's how you do it. You do this kind of guerrilla warfare. You attack and you retreat. At the same time, you cause a lot of damage, obviously, in your victories. So it's kind of it's a multi-point victory. And you do the same with Saint-Malo, depending on who goes there. Sometimes the English go there, so you do the same thing. You attack, you take, you transfer resources, and you go out again. Because again, Saint-Malo is actually really not important. It has very small population. The industry commerce is very low. Yeah, so it's not like critical. But Bordeaux is good. Marseille, well, if you're able, you can try to hold on to Marseille, but it's very, very difficult because the Austrian army, which is in Milan, is very strong. So they're likely gonna attack Marseille. So eventually you have to do the same thing, but from Lyon. So from Lyon, you would attack Marseille, ravage them, take the resources, go back to Lyon. But eventually you have to tackle the army in Milan, and you'll be strong enough within a few years to do that. Probably you'll still be under strength compared to Austria, but you should have enough to kick them out of Milan. And you should probably stick to Milan, because the armies after Milan are not as strong. So you should prepare a big thrust force going from Lyon. So basically, I think that's it. These are the tips I can give you. It's a very, very difficult scenario because it starts quite late and starts at the 1815, and a lot of generals start to die of old age. So remember that you have to occupy the entire map, which is the point of the game. And if too many generals die, then you don't have enough generals to occupy each city, which is like, I don't know, there's 46 of them on the map. So you need at least 46 generals alive to finish the scenario. So that's kind of that's your time limit. So I think I gave you the tips here to beat it. Basically, yeah, transfer the artillery, do this kind of guerrilla warfare, take the resources, send them back to the national treasury, reinvest them in Paris and Lyon as much as possible, and then, you know, as you invade other cities and expand your empire again, you can invest in those places. And yeah, that's how I did it. I don't know, there's probably other ways. It really depends on what the CPU does. I do recommend saving and loading a lot. I know it's kind of not fair to do that. It's kind of cheating in a way, but the thing is, look, you want to beat it, right? You don't want to like spend hours and hours and then lose. You want to beat the scenario, and so you have to avoid things like diseases. You have to avoid, you know, pandemics or epidemics, I should say. Avoid these kind of, you know, weird random events that affect you, because the less of them, the better. And I will just show you here to finish. Let's end this. Have to quit. Would you like to quit? Yes, no, and play again, yes. If you click start again, by the way, you'll notice that the fifth scenario now is gone. So you really have to have a save game. If you want to play the fifth scenario from scratch, you really need a save game just before you get defeated as an emperor. So remember that. I have one here, that's why I was able to quickly show you. So I'm going to resume a saved game, and we'll go to Lisbon. And this is actually the end of the game. This is the same scenario, fifth scenario, but this is the end of the game. This is basically the only remaining force is a weak force in Gibraltar, held by the British. We're gonna attack Gibraltar, and I can show you what the battle looks like. So we're gonna attack by land, because yeah, we're there. Let's take some people. We don't need many people because they're not so strong there. So that should be enough. Reserves. Okay, we're gonna take all. Food and attack. Alright. So you got these little squares going into the other flag. These are the units. So depending what units you take, the icon will change. So this is what a battle typically looks like. And I'm just going to place my troops first, and then I will discuss what we're looking at here. So infantry and the guns behind. You always want to protect your guns. Guns, remember, are precious, especially not now, but at the beginning of the game. You cannot afford to lose guns. Protect your guns with your life. Okay, so what we're looking here is actually the map of Gibraltar, you know, made in KOEI style. And the southern bank, actually, I think is Africa. And there is no way to go there. There's no bridge you can build, of course, nothing. So it's mainly there just for decoration. The units, these guys with a stick, it's actually like a bayonet. These are the infantry units. This thing here is a gun. It's an artillery unit. And I don't have any cavalry, unfortunately, to show you, but it looks like a horse, basically. So yeah, no surprise there. Let's move the units, and I will speed up a little bit in just a bit. Just to, you know, speed it up the process a little bit. But basically, yeah, so this is Gibraltar. It's, if people know what Gibraltar looks like, Gibraltar has a huge rock thing, and the city is just kind of below that rock. I think they exaggerated it a little bit in this game, but yeah. This is not a very good terrain because I don't like mountains. Mountains are slow to cross, it's annoying. Anyway, I'm gonna speed this up. I'm gonna come back when I'm in position to strike, and then I'll discuss a bit more. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I think this is a good point to come back here. So, yeah, I got closer to the British. As you can see already, one unit I destroyed at the beginning. It was a very small unit commanded by Hill. I'm in position to strike with the cannons. So the way that it works is that every time you have a unit moving, there is a menu that appears like this. And you can move, you can raid, you can wait, you have some commander tactics, you can build bridges sometimes, not here, only on shallow water. And yeah, you can flee or you can view. So when you raid, there is ordinary, which is only good for infantry units or cavalry units. Charge is only available to cavalry units. It's a very good thing because you can quickly finish off certain units, but you have to be careful, I think, because charge can potentially kill the opposing commanders. You have to be careful. Remember that you're not trying to kill them, you're trying to recruit them later on. So, you know, they will, what do you call that in English? Enlist in your army after a while. So you need them, don't kill them. Cannon is the same thing. If you, if that last shot finishes off the unit, there is a chance that it will kill the commander as well. So be careful how to use that. Do as much damage as you can, but just be careful. So here I'm going to bombard his artillery position first of all, because it's in the way. I'm just going to keep doing that, and then I'll come back towards the end of the battle. So see you in a bit. Okay, let's just come back here. This is almost over. So yeah, as you can see, it's kind of a massacre, and the way that the AI works is not very efficient because basically, as long as there are cities, they try to occupy the city spots first. It's kind of like in Total War series where, you know, the defending army usually concentrates in the city center because it's a control point. Like if you lose that control point, you lose the battle. Even if your troops are somewhere else, it doesn't matter. And of course, that's not realistic. It's silly. That's why most of the Total War games actually suffered from that issue. But, you know, here it's kind of the same. They will protect the town as much as possible. So it's a massacre. I'm just basically just shooting his army with guns. And as you can see, certain shots are missing, which, you know, there's a certain element of, you know, randomness involved, I guess. But yeah, there's no way I'm going to lose here. This is already won. There is an interesting point in this map, actually. So if I go here, usually when you move closer to an enemy unit, you have an option to attack. So you move and attack. But not here. And the reason is because this is a cliff, ladies and gentlemen. And there is no way to know because it doesn't say anything. But I know that because, yeah, I already played this before. So I'm just gonna move the gun closer. It doesn't really matter though. But I can, you see, if I try to move off, it says just ahead is the edge of a cliff. Okay, but it doesn't look like it. It's not indicated anyway. So anyway, let's just finish him off. Yeah, so like this. I should be able to move my gun though, with being safe. Can't attack either. So eventually, yeah, after you attack a few times, the units are becoming disorganized. So that's why you have this skeleton skull symbol on top of them. When they are disorganized, okay, he recovered in a turn, but usually when they are disorganized, they can't move, and that's another trick, actually, I forgot to mention. When it comes to dealing with Russia, right? Russia has a huge army, especially a lot of reserves. What you need to do, what I recommend doing when you reach Russia, is to occupy Prussia first. Okay, so you have like at least 2 cities bordering with Russian cities, and try to have them just a little bit inferior in strength to the Russians. That way it provokes the Russians to attack. Usually when it's the same strength, the AI doesn't attack because it doesn't think it's safe enough. But if it has a slight advantage, it will attack. And the point is, in defense, you should be very, very strong, especially with guns. Yeah, you know, the enemy is coming, so you have that first shot, and it's very important. If you're successful in hitting a lot of enemies, they will lose a lot of men right away, and you'll be able to, again, disorganize them. And some units might stay disorganized for a while. Some of them might just retreat in the next turn. Anyway, you want to cause as much damage as possible and make sure that they just sink as many troops as possible into your city. And remember that the reserves, if they take 1,000 of them, if they lose the battle, that 1,000 reserves get lost as well. So you can cause a lot of damage that way. That's what I recommend doing with Russia when you reach Russia. And again, remember, in Russia, you have Cossack attacks. So again, it's annoying because, it damages your army. You have to take Russia as quickly as possible, knock them out of the game. That way, there's no more Cossack attacks. Although, if you try to transfer your treasury sometimes to Russian cities, they will sometimes get attacked by Cossacks. So be careful of that. It's the same that happens in Spain. Guerrillas also intercept certain packages. So to give stuff to Spain and Russia is difficult. I don't recommend building them up too much. Just invade them and then move away, go take Denmark, Sweden, and then eventually England, like this way. Anyway, let's finish here. He's almost beaten. Yeah, he's really, really done here. So again, he's losing morale, getting disorganized. So this turn, it still says that his troops are still disorganized. And the next turn, I will defeat him. And that, guys, is it. This is how you beat this scenario. I really hope I gave you enough tips and hints to beat it. I think that's enough. I think I covered everything possible. It's a very interesting game. It's really like chess. You have to plan ahead. You have to move. Well, in chess you can't move backwards too much, especially with not all the pieces, but you can with most, though. And you have to do that in this game. You have to play this kind of guerrilla warfare. Attack, take the resources, go back out, let the enemy come back in, defeat them again, maybe if you want, inflict damage. By doing that, you're also gonna weaken their resolve, and so you're gonna start forming alliances. They're gonna actually give you money to stop war, and that's what you want. You need their money because you need to reinvest it into your own cities. So do that as much as possible, and then you'll win the game. That's it. Otaku Ops signing off, and I'll let you watch the ending. Bye bye, guys.